Alright, we're going to tie on a Shumakov tube today. This is a long-range brass Shumakov tube. You notice it's got the wonderful grooves in the back. Now the best thing about Shumakov tubes is they're the original hybrid tubes, where we're going to be doing all the tying on the plastic that's in front of the tube, and the metal actually becomes the body. So when Yuri designed these, the grooves were meant to be the body of the fly, and he liked to jazz them up with a little bit of paint. So we'll show you that first. So with the Shumakov tube, all we're simply doing is taking just kind of dollar store yellow nail polish. You can always raid your wife's jewelry box or girlfriend's jewelry box, or wherever they keep these kind of things. Okay. And we're just going to paint all the yellow grooves. Get lots of paint on there. Okay, so you can see the big bubble of paint around it. And all we're going to do is take a paper towel and we're going to wipe the grooves. And this is a good thing to do way ahead of time. Because this fly is called the yellow belly, that's why we have the yellow grooves. It kind of matches the color we're going to put on it. So you can see now the grooves are painted. If you were using a darker color, of course, it would show up a lot better. But there is a subtle yellow color over the brass. I'll just zoom in and show you that. Whoops. Okay, so you can see the slight yellow coloring on it now. Okay, what we'll do now is we'll take the liner tube, and I like to always kind of match the liner tube with what we painted the grooves. So I've got some kind of bright yellow or chartreuse liner tube here. We'll slip it on the liner tube, and we want to cut with, about almost an inch probably coming out the front of the Shumakov tube, and we'll leave that usual 1 to 2 millimeters in the back for melting with the flame. This will just melt the back end, and that'll secure the liner tube at the back. You can see it curled up on itself. We know we're ready to go. Okay, so I'll put this in the vise, or on the taper pin, pardon me. And again, just enough pressure to hold it, but not to get it wedged in there forever. Alright, we're going to go with black thread. And we can now see that the Shumakov tube it's not going anywhere backwards, but of course frontwards it'll slip right off. So what we have to do is build a little base of thread on the plastic tube. So I'll just zoom in on that a little bit. You're tying right on the plastic, and just making a little bump there, so now the Shumakov tube can't go forward or backwards. It's locked in place there. That's essentially how a Shumakov tube pretty much stays on to the liner tube until we melt it, of course. Alright, we're going to start with some of our badger hackle we sell. We dye this in our shop ourselves and get some really nice colors. I'm going to start with just one single feather. And you can see the badger's got a nice tone to it. It's got the dark in the middle and then all the color on the outside. We'll cut all the fluffy stuff away. We're going to go in base first with this feather. And we're going to give it a few reps. And of course wrapping forward like you would with any hackle. Okay, and I'm actually going to put another feather on this too, just to give a little more yellow color. Do one more yellow badger hackle. Again, trim it up. You can't have a fly called yellow belly without having a little bit of yellow in it. Okay, so again, we're just spinning forward. And that's about how much I'm looking for. And we'll just tie this back a little bit, just so it lays over the tube, lays over the brass tube a little bit. Okay, that's the first step. Alright, to this fly now we're going to add some black hackle. Okay, it's just regular black hackle. Again, we'll trim the fuzzy parts off. And this was originally designed to be a pretty dark fly except for the yellow. We'll spin this on just like we did before. And you can see how that darkens the yellow up just a bit. And we'll tie that back a little bit. Okay, at this point we're going to start building the wing. We're going to use temple dog fur. Really nice, really flexible fur that gives a lot of shape in the water but also gives a lot of movement. Okay. I'm going to take this. I'm going to leave guard hairs in. I like the guard hairs on this fur. It gives a little more structure to the wing and gives it a nice tapered look. Some guys pull it out. I like to leave it in. Okay, we'll trim up the ends. This will be the base of our wing. Okay. We'll just wet that down a bit just to pull everything back. Alright, at this point we'd like to add a little bit of, it's really dark copper flashabou. We don't put a lot in, probably 4 or 5 strands at the most, just to give that little bit of flash that entices the fish a bit. Okay, so not a lot at all. Put that right in. Okay, at this point we'll add another black hackle. Okay, so you're kind of building up the wing with a first layer of fur, the flashabou, another hackle, and then we're going to add another layer of fur on top of that, just so that the wing doesn't go in as one big clump. This kind of mixes things up a little bit, makes it a nicer transition from wing to hackle. Okay, we'll just pull everything back again. Okay. Here's where we come in with the last part of the wing, or almost the last part of the wing, I should say. So again, black temple dog. Use Arctic fox too, or crystal fox. I've got a friend of mine that uses this pattern too, and he actually uses black bear. Again, I'm going to leave the guard hairs in just because I like that nice long tapered look. Okay, I'll trim the edge. Right now I love to top this wing. A lot of my Shumakov tubes actually do this. I top the wing with just a little bit of burnt peacock. Okay, so burnt peacock again, very similar like to Rhea. We'll use about 4 or 5 strands. This is the steel blue color. Just gives a little variation on the top of the wing. About 6 or 7 strands maybe. Tying it in at the top. Again, wetting everything down just to see what it's going to look, or see what it could look like in the water. Okay, and almost all my Shumakov patterns I put jungle cock on. This time I want to get a couple of smaller feathers because it's a smaller fly. We actually designed this fly for steelhead, but we found out it worked way better for cutthroat trout, and it's one of our probably top 10 patterns anyway for cutthroat in BC. It's one of those things that's kind of like a happy accident, I guess. You design it for one species and then another one likes it even more. Okay, we'll just finish off this head. Alright. Okay, we'll cut off the tip. A little too far on that vice adapter. Okay, we'll melt it just like we usually do. Now, once you melt the tip, of course, everything's held on there pretty securely. The tube won't slide up because of that base of thread we put on. Okay, a little bit of our favorite Sally Hansen product. And just turn it over, make sure everything looks okay. And there it is. That's the yellow belly. Like I said, one of our top 10 coastal trout patterns on a tube.